I'll officially declare the meeting open, and we are currently being recorded. And I'd like to do acknowledgement of country, and I'd like to acknowledge and pay respects to the First Peoples of the River Murray and Mallee region, who are the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet. So welcome everybody. No apologies, which is great. And we have Tony there at home on Zoom, and Jerry is in his office because he's not behind me. So Jerry's in his office giving me a wave. So that's really good. Julie's here, and Ashley's here as well, doing some technical stuff. Okay, so members' declarations. Has any member got any declaration? If you have, please put up your hand. And there's no hands have gone up. So that will be shown as nil. Deputations are nil, late reports are nil, and the CEO's report. So I'll now hand over to Tony for the CEO report. And if we can do questions afterwards, so if you've got a pen and paper, please make a note of anything that you want to ask so that we don't interrupt and go backwards and forwards. So yeah, I'll hand it over to you now, Tony. Unmute, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, so look, I've only got the one report, and that is a series of amendments to our code of practice, to access council meetings, and also to amend our informal gathering policy so that we can meet by electronic means. So we can do it tonight, but it has to be the first item on the agenda, is to amend these policies. You're probably wondering why all the amendments are grouped at the front. That was the advice that we got from the LGA. Keep it simple, put all the amendments at the front, and then once we don't need to meet by electronic means, we can basically just reverse all of those amendments out. I just would like to amend the fourth dot point of my recommendation, which talks about electronic location being Zoom video conference facilities. We are looking at other options, so I'm just wondering if councillors might consider expanding that a little bit and making it Zoom video conference facilities or other electronic means at the discretion of the CEO, just in case we do go to MS Teams, which is one option that we have been looking at. So look, hopefully the amendments to the three policies are reasonably straightforward. I'm happy to take any questions, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thanks, Tony. Just hang on, Margaret. The only thing I'd like to suggest is that really needs to clarify that this is the actual policy before the actual red writing that's shown there as the amendments. So whether just that word policy on page 6 of 20 could come forward over the front, because when you read it, yes, you read the red parts first, and then you go and read our policy. Well, to me, the red parts will become part of the policy. If you can understand that, Tony.
I can, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, look, I suppose they're just in red just to highlight what the amendments are, and that came from the paper that was produced by Norman Waterhouse, and we basically just inserted those bits in there to amend the policy. So if you adopt the policy as per what's in the agenda, then all those bits in red will just become part of the policy.
That they could stay red if you wanted to, but yeah, just having the word policy at the start of the document, really.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. The code of practice meeting procedures is an actual procedure, not a policy. That's probably the only one. I mean, the other two are policies, but that one is an actual procedure.
Okay, well, even if we had the word procedure for that one, so that we know that's the starting point, and happy to keep it in red. And I assume other members may be the same, but I'll ask in a minute. Happy to keep that in red so that everybody can quite clearly see that, and then we just have to delete that stuff if and when we go back into normal practice. Okay, Margaret had a hand up first. Margaret.
The first question was, if this policy is going to go on to our webpage?
Yes, I will.
Secondly, I agree with the fourth one. I would put the electronic location, including Zoom, blah, blah, or other electronic platforms available.
As determined by the CEO, Margaret.
Well, there will only be yourself or the CEO that will determine it. And I don't think any of us elected members are going to determine it.
Well, it needs to be clearly spelled out. So we're giving delegated, what I'm saying, by including that in there, you're giving delegated authority to the CEO to select whatever platform he wants to, providing it gets it out to all elected members.
So my department has gone to Microsoft Teams, and that's actually working really well. However, I don't think it has the capabilities of us all. I can see everything on my screen because I'm using a laptop rather than the iPad.
Okay, Tony?
Yeah, so Microsoft Teams is probably our preferred platform. But as Councillor Howie says, the limitations are you can only see 4 people at once, which is going to make it really difficult for voting. Our understanding is Microsoft is working on that at the moment. MS Teams is a lot more secure than Zoom. There's been some security issues identified by the LGA and others in terms of Zoom. So look, if MS Teams is able to get around the issue of only being able to see 4 people at once, then that's probably our preferred option. We're also looking at Zoom webinar, which is an add-on to what we're doing tonight. And if you're interested, City of Charleston is actually Zoom webinaring their live streaming their council meeting tonight, started 8 minutes ago. So I might go and watch a little bit of that afterwards. But yeah, I suppose there are different options, and this is all really new. But if we can keep it open, then you know, if there's a better platform, then we can select that.
Okay. Any other questions from members before we go into the individual policies and procedures? There being none. Okay, so has anybody now got any comments in relation to the Code of Practice meeting procedures? For the first one. Peter?
Just not exactly sure which part we're talking about. I've got something on page 26 and something else page 27. Is that what we're talking about? That's page 26 and page 27 is on the iPad, not
page 1 of 20, the Code of Practice meeting procedures. The first one.
So page 18 then. 18 of 20. So it says attending a meeting, 33 part 1.
Yes, got it. Hang on a minute. Everybody got it? Yep, thumbs up and whatever. Okay. Yes, Peter?
I just wondering, as the world's changing so quickly, rather than just talk about turning mobile phones to silent or vibrate, whether we need to talk about all electronic devices not used for the meeting. So Fitbits, iPads that are not being used, laptops, you know, any other electronic device goes on silent or is off. If we just need to be a bit broader, that's the first comment.
Tony?
Yeah, I don't have an issue with that. It's probably nothing to do with COVID-19. It's just good meeting practices.
Yep. And the second one is the next page talks about use of recording devices, which kind of conflicts with what we're doing. So does that need to be reworded so it takes into account scenarios like we're going through now?
No, that's the recording devices of other people, of people that are sitting in the council chambers, not us. I think that's right, Tony.
I know that's the intent, but is that the way it reads?
Yep, that's.
Again, Tony.
It's definitely the intent that other people. Sorry. Did you want me to respond?
Hang on, Margaret. Tony.
Yep, that's the intent, is that someone else cannot use a recording device without council's permission.
So the second line there, Peter, says without the approval of council. So it's referring to other people sitting in the gallery who want to record. So if Peter Young wants to come in and record, and I'm sorry, he needs to get council permission. Just hang on, everybody. I'm just finishing with Peter first.
Well, that's fine. If that's the only 2 points that I picked up in reading it through, and if that's clear enough for everyone, I'm happy.
Now, Margaret next.
Peter's talking about the policy, the old policy, the policy that we have. He's not talking about the amendments to the policy. So at the moment, we are talking about the amendments of the policy, which then includes all the things that we're doing. If we revert back to the initial policy, back when things go back to normal, then we should be able to discuss that. But at the moment, and correct me right if I'm wrong, Tony, we are now talking about the amendments to the policy that Peter is talking about.
No, what we're talking about, Margaret, we're talking about the policy. So the amendments to the policy are in red at the front, and that's why I'm saying that need to clearly show that's the start of the procedures, and then we go into the policy. This is the policy that we currently have, and when the virus disappears on us, we come back to another meeting and we'll do an amendment whereby we'll delete that first section in red, and we'll continue on with the current policy that's there. Is that how I'm reading it, Tony?
Yep, that's right, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. You finished? Okay, Margaret?
Well, that's exactly what I just said.
No, you talked about amendments. So anyway, that's okay.
I was talking about the old policy, the policy that we have, the policy, and I was saying that that's what our policy is now. But at the moment, what we're talking about and what we're here sitting about is the red in the amendments.
No, I'm
sorry.
sorry.
Once we change the policy, that will go back to the policy committee.
Yeah, we've got cross purposes here. What Peter was bringing up was in relation to the policy on page 19 of 20 of the agenda, number 36. That's actually in the current policy.
No, that's the policy, but that's not the amendment. That doesn't include the amendments.
Well, we're still, yeah, it's not quite coming through properly. But anyway, if you're happy with what we're saying there, Margaret, I'll move on to Councillor Simms. Okay, Councillor Simms.
Yeah, thanks, Neil. Just on the recording of council meetings and that sort of stuff, in this sort of a format, is that we can't really stop people from recording this meeting without our knowledge anyway, at home on their PCs or anything at home anyway, is there, really?
That'll be fine. That's entirely up to them, because once the minutes become public information, then they can do what they like with them, basically. It's just saying at the meeting, when you actually have a meeting, they can't sit in on the meeting and physically record from there, because we've only had to record this first meeting. We don't have to record other meetings unless council makes a decision to do that, and I strongly recommend that we don't. Happy, David? Councillor Simms? Right. Any other discussion in relation to the Code of Practice meeting procedure and the policy that's also there? Okay, so we're doing the one motion, so we'll move on to the second one, which is the access to council meeting, council committees and council documents. So once again, the first part of the coronavirus amendments are at the start, and then the policy continues on as previously. So once again, I'd suggest that the word procedure go at the front. Is this a full policy, Tony, or procedure and policy? Tony?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, can you just repeat that?
Is this a procedure in red and then the policy, or is this just a full policy?
The whole thing is our policy. The bits in red are the bit that we've added in.
So on this one here, we'll show the word policy at the start of the document on page, unfortunately, no page number there. Okay, has anybody got any discussion on the access to council meeting, council committees and council documents? Councillor Sim.
It's really weird looking at it the way it's written with the red bit of the new part of the policy and then the old bit, because there's actually some conflicts between the red and what's written in the black. For example, on page 30, it talks about this is of the we're not required to place meetings and agendas on public display, whereas on page 33 it says that we still are going to place them in public in our public offices. So I just see it a little bit contradictory having the way it's set out as it is at the moment.
Okay, if you can mute Tony.
Yeah, so the bits in red will supersede other bits within the policy. because of the exceptional circumstances that we're in.
So should that be placed somewhere at the front of the document, Tony?
Why they've advised us to basically put the amendments at the front is then we can just, instead of putting them throughout the whole policy and making it really difficult to word it, that is basically the changes that are made because of us having to meet by electronic means, and then when we don't have to, we basically pull all those bits at the front out. So yes, it does make other bits of the policy, they do contradict, but yeah, that's sort of the advice that we've been given by the LGA.
So asked to just have a clause there at the start to say that in some places the policy does the policy parts in red are for coronavirus and may conflict with the current policy. However, the coronavirus policy, the parts in red will supersede the conflicting parts. If that made sense.
Yeah, I think it does say that, Mr. Mayor. So it says on page 29 of the agenda, it talks about for the period of notice 1 has effect, this code of practice is altered as set out below, and these alterations have effect notwithstanding any other provision in this code of practice to the contrary.
Councillor Howie?
I'm actually assuming that when this is all over, that we will probably have another meeting to revert back to our old policies.
That is correct.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, so we now, Tony, as he's saying, that there's a section in there that does talk about any conflicts that may be arise, that this one supersedes anything else. Okay, any other comments in relation to this document? If not, I'll move on to the last item there.
Did we do the informal?
No, I'm just moving on to that now, Margaret. Councillor Howie. Okay, informal gatherings of policy. And I know that that's in blue, so can we change that to red so we keep a consistency there, Tony?
Yeah, I'm not sure why that happened, Mr. Mayor, but yeah, obviously that is the marked up bit. It is in blue for some reason. But yeah, the stuff at the front is the same as the other two policy and procedures. They're the amendments because of the meeting by electronic means.
Word policy over, so that will be the heading as well, similar to what we've done to the others. Okay, has anybody got any comments in relation to informal gatherings policy? That's indicate that there's nothing there. Okay, so everybody's happy with that one. Okay, I'll go back to the recommendation. And as the CEO mentioned, an alteration to number 4. Julie, would you like to read that out if you've got it there, please? Just hang on for a minute, folks. Just the number 4, Julie. Okay, did everybody hear that or not?
No.
Better come over here. Just hang on, Jill's going to relocate. Oh, you go in there. You go now.
That as from the 14th of April 2020, meetings of the council will take place by electronic means at the following electronic location: Zoom video conference facility or other electronic means at the discretion of the CEO.
Okay, did everybody hear that now? Okay, Councillor, well, there's hands up there. Okay, so we now have the recommendation from 1 through to 4, and with number 4 as altered. Someone prepared to move that way? Councillor, how are you moving it? Please, Councillor, how is moving it?
No,
Sorry?
no. Instead
Right,
of electronic means, can we just use the electronic platforms, please?
All right, we'll change the word platform means to platforms, electronic platforms. The last word. Okay, all right, so we've changed that to word platforms. So now you're moving it, Margaret, Councillor Howie. That's a nod of the heads, that's yes. Councillor Maddox is seconding it. Any other discussion? I'll put those in favour. All those in favour, please raise their hand. That is unanimous. So yeah, thanks very much. I'll declare that carried. Okay, thank you everybody. That's was the end of the penny farthing. We have no other items on the agenda, so I'll thank you very much for your attendance and I'll declare the meeting closed. Well done everybody. And say goodbye. Happy Virus Day.
Good night.
See you, folks.
Yeah.
Thanks. See ya.